Anyhow, let's get to what went wrong in the ring. Here is a problem that they're developing, and it's going to happen next week in Philly, and maybe it won't spread too much, but FTR comes out. And first, and by the way, did you see Cash get in the face of the 18-year-old guy with the FedEx outfit on or whatever?
They've been doing this a lot lately. I don't know if you've noticed it, but they've been doing this specific thing a lot lately.
Well, they shouldn't do it in Philadelphia. And especially, they really shouldn't do it at all, because here's the thing. Everybody's smart now. They know you can't touch them. You're not Roger Jackson. You can't touch them. But even in the days, the Terry Funks, the heels that would go out and challenge fans, in effect, and bow up at them, Terry taught me that he made it broader. Every once in a while, if somebody looked like that he had gotten over, it was something he said, Terry'd get up in the guy's face and he could back him down. That was a long time ago and a different guy. As a general rule, yell at the crowd as a broad collective rather than getting one guy's face because he didn't back down. Cash has to stay there jawing. The guy's not going to back down from him because he knows he can sue Cash if Cash does anything. And Cash knows he can't do anything, but he thinks he's trying to fucking buffalo this guy. So he just got told off by a teenage FedEx driver. Just yell at them broadly. Don't pick one out and get in the face because you ain't going to win, and then you just look foolish.
And it's happened a few times with FTR recently. There was one time where it may have been Cash where like they drew back like they were going to hit. Obviously, they weren't going to throw a punch, but it was just to get the person to flinch, and they didn't flinch. They stood there with their drink in their hand, and then this time the guy was blowing kisses.
Yeah.
So if these are the reactions you're getting as a heel, stop doing this.
Stop doing these things. So then they got in the ring, and Dax was going to start talking, but the microphone was not feeding the PA. It was feeding television. We could hear when he would take his hand and bang on it. We could hear those things, but he couldn't hear himself on the PA, so he thought the mic was dead. So he says it's not working. They hand him a second one, but it's the same thing because it's not the problem with the microphones. It's the problem with the fucking audio idiot in the truck. And it's the same thing. We could hear everything. We say it's not working. And then he got bleeped for, I guess, said, give me a fucking microphone that works right, whatever. Finally, they were feeding the PA. Here's the problem. They start trying to cut the promo. They were pinned in the tag team title match at the pay-per-view by the Illegal Man. And they're going to browbeat Paul Turner, the referee, about it and cross-examine him about it. And then tell him they want him to reverse the decision and give them the belts. But the people are just hooting him down, and they're chanting, shut the fuck up. All that shit. By the way, they're on the Turner Networks. There was no TNT when I was part of the creative for the wrestling program on the Turner Network, but we would get memos about language, and nobody ever said fuck. But they have just quit trying to censor the chants from these crowds, and they're in Philadelphia. Need I say more? The same 2-hour program, what were there, 40, 50, 60 fucks from all the people chanting, shut the fuck up. And they're just letting it, they've given up. If somebody had said fuck, in 1990, I believe they would have taken the program off the air. But the point is, they're chanting shut the fuck up because A, they're not interested in this angle or these people. B, they're a wise-ass crowd, the most dedicated, devoted, hardcore, indie-minded crowd that's going to come to the 2300 toilet in Philadelphia. And they're just hijacking the show, and that is the meaning of it, hijacking the show. You can't get the fucking promo. It's throwing the talent off. Nobody listens, so that then they need to be reacting to what the talent is saying and doing in the ring, and instead they're just taking off on their own, and we don't want to hear it. If they were interested in the angles and the personalities, they would listen. But instead, it's more and more of the Dominic Mysterio thing where it's fun for us to just shit on you, and we don't really care what you're saying to listen to it anyway. But it's happening on this program, not just here, but to like 3 or 4 different fucking people whenever they start talking. And if the people aren't listening, you can't get your points across. And then the stories are bad enough to begin with. Don't make them any harder to understand. Do you see the point I'm making?
I do.
And I don't know how they're going to get out of this. And also, Dax is the one that cross-examined Paul Turner. There's a manager for that. Because Dax's strong point of his working or his talking is not his talking. It's his working. But then Stokely fires up and starts browbeating Paul Turner when he said the decision is final, but then the fans are chanting on their own, no hose, no hose. Because, they've done the comedy where Stokely don't get no hose. But they're not listening to what he's doing. And he's trying to do a deal with Paul Turner where he gives Paul the chest finger, and Paul gives it back to him. And FTR gets in the middle, but the people had not paid any attention. Here comes Edge's music. And he comes out, and now they like that because they like him. But he comes out alone. He's looking around. There's no Christian Cage. And then suddenly in the ring, Cage appears from behind and gives Stokely his finish, the unprettier, or whatever they call it these days. The manager gets hit first. So he lays Stokely out, and then the FTR turns around, and Edge and Christian beat them up. And then here come the referees and 15 security guys. They have a big pull apart. Every outlaw indie guy in Philadelphia was booked that had a black shirt. And they got FTR to the entranceway, and Stokely's all shook up. And Christian and Edge cut the promo and still managed to do some comedy because Christian is going to say, your fathers, you have fathers. And Edge is like, oh, don't do that. And then the fans want him to do it. Okay, do it. And your fathers are dead. And they announce a tag team match for All Out in Toronto. But nobody listened to the majority of what went on there. They just amused themselves. And out of the 2 teams that Edge and Christian could face, we said it took the new off of them teaming up to go against Luchasaurus and originally it was supposed to be Nick Plain and Pip Sabian. It should have been in Toronto. It should have been against FTR. And if they had to get the belts off the Hurt Business, then FTR should have been the champions. Instead of this goofy fucking Brody King and Brodito or whatever the fuck. But the point is, the fans are just taking over because all they're there to see is people break furniture, and they're not listening to any of the guys try to set up any of the stories. Would they have done this to the CM Punks, the Drew McIntyres, the Roman Reigns', the Paul Heymans, the Braun Breakers, even the main stars in the industry? No, they're interested. They might want to boo what they're saying, but they want to hear it. With this, they've already said, this shit ain't going to be worth a shit anyway. Let's just have fun. Do you think I'm overstating this?
Well, no, I mean, you're the expert. I would listen to you before I listen to me. I think you're right about the fact that the fans, I mean, Stokely's just a part of the thing now like Tully was. He's like a comedy Tully.
Yeah.
But there's no reason to want to see him get his ass kicked. He's already gotten his ass kicked numerous times. As far as Dax here, maybe it was...
Wait, can you imagine, hold that thought, but can you imagine if we'd pitched a finish to Dusty, much less him giving us one like this, where the Midnight Express is in the ring. We beat the job guys, and then here comes Dusty, and he knocks me out first. What the fuck in the world?
No, he has to get to you, which gives Bobby a chance to take a great bump, which is always nice.
There you go. Yeah. But anyway, go ahead, Dax.
But, I agree Dax's strong point ain't on the mic. However, I thought maybe it was because of the frustration with the mic issue and just kind of yelling it out, not hearing himself back right. I thought he had more intensity in whatever he was yelling at the referee here than anything else. I thought it was one of his best moments on the mic, actually.
Well, but also he was trying to be heard over, a lot of times people that weren't fucking listening.
He sounded like someone who didn't practice what he was going to say, someone who was trying to just say something. I actually like that.
But that's the thing, is that they've put the cart before the horse, in that the manager should be the one to lay out the grievance. Then the wrestler should be the one to back it up and fucking intimidate the fucking guy who's not cooperating with the manager. And then when the baby face comes out, then the fucking wrestlers go to the baby faces and they fucking fight them, and maybe, as you said, get through them to get to the manager, but not completely, because that's the tease to continue this. Because in a perfect world, the manager has caused them, the baby faces, endless strife, caused them to lose, caused them to get beat, caused them to get hurt, whatever, so that's the prize that they get in the claw machine when they finally get a hold of him. But this is all goddamn cattywampers.
And to me, there was again, I lost myself a little bit in the moment because I used to be in that building. It's a different crew of people, but Philadelphia stays Philadelphia. Philadelphia never changes. And I was enjoying the hell out of those fans just doing what they always do. But what do you think? I mean, I guess you kind of said, I was going to say, what do you think of the setup to FTR versus Edge and Christian?
Well, that's the thing. They shouldn't have already had a match together, Edge and Christian, against these other two that for all the reasons, it was things that were wrong with it that we talked about when we reviewed it, that their first match back as a team, Edge and Christian, they still have to put over the Lizard as being somewhat of a force because the other guy broke his foot and blah, blah, blah. They should have done some type of focused angle to Edge and Christian versus FTR, where at least FTR can do the things in the ring to make the focus on Edge and Christian, rather than them having to be the veterans trying to get these greenhorns over. And in Toronto, their hometown, and their career comes full circle. That could have been something that was promoted. You've taken a lot of the icing off the cake and made it less palatable by having this false start and crummy match in Wembley. But nevertheless, that's my opinion. Or not Wembley, but England. Or good old Wembley, England. Right down the road from West Faversham.